Normally I put in music for these videos, but considering this is a serious topic that will definitely have different points of views from fans, both positive and negative, I figure upbeat music is not appropriate for this one. And it's kind of a long video, so there's also that to consider. Anyway, here are my full thoughts on CM Punk's termination from All Elite Wrestling. Let's get started by going back to his debut. In August of 2021, AEW announced their new show called Rampage, and there was to be a live edition at the United Center in Chicago. This sparked massive rumors that CM Punk was finally going to come out of retirement and return to pro wrestling. That rumor itself sold out the building and ended up being accurate when Punk showed up to start the event. It was a moment that even I enjoyed because I was so excited to see him return, and I was also going to be in attendance at All Out the following month in Hoffman Estates to witness Punk's first wrestling match in 7 years. For the first few months, CM Punk had a good run, having matches with the likes of Darby Allin, Powerhouse Hobbs, Eddie Kingston, among others. And then he started his highly anticipated feud with MJF, in which the two exchanged one of the greatest promo battles of all time. MJF became the first wrestler to defeat CM Punk in AEW and later lost to Punk in a dog collar match. But it wasn't until CM Punk feuded with Hangman Adam Page that the problems ignited. Adam Page went off script in a promo and then Punk went on to win the world title, suffering an injury in the process. But it wasn't until All Out in 2022 that CM Punk finally let loose and verbally attacked the Elite, leading to a physical altercation backstage that got CM Punk and the Elite suspended from the company. I personally felt that Punk should have been fired that night and the Elite removed from their executive positions within the company, neither of which happened. The Elite returned a few months later and minded their own business, while Punk returned in 2023 for the new Collision show and instantly referenced the problems. CM Punk started a new gimmick on Collision where he was still the AEW World Champion despite Tony Khan stripping the title away from him, declaring himself the real World Champion. A gimmick which I honestly thought was stupid and didn't make any sense because it makes you wonder why other injured wrestlers never did this in the past when they got rightfully stripped of their belts. This lasted until the big All in London at Wembley Stadium event that took place, and this is where CM Punk sealed his doom. Apparently, weeks prior to All in London, Jack Perry, formerly Jungle Boy, was denied the opportunity to use real glass in his segments by CM Punk. I first questioned that because why was Punk the guy who was denying things on the show when the owner Tony Khan was literally right there? It should not be up to CM Punk on what goes on during the shows because that just exposes Tony as utilizing way too much favoritism. During the pre-show of All In, Jack made comments about how he was using real glass to the camera and basically told CM Punk to cry me a river. This led CM Punk to confront Jack backstage prior to his own match with Samoa Joe, warn him that he could beat the crap out of him, and then locked in a guillotine, forcing security to separate them. Enraged, CM Punk turned to Tony Khan, threatened to physically harm him, and shouted that he quit the company. He was later calmed by Samoa Joe and focused enough to go out to the ring and perform his match, which ended up being his last. Both Jack and Punk were escorted out of the stadium and immediately suspended pending an investigation. But on September 2nd, the night before All Out, CM Punk was officially terminated from AEW, ending his tenure with the company after 2 years. Now that I told the story of what went down, it's time for me to give my actual thoughts on the termination. And I want everyone to know that my beliefs of his termination only revolve around the situation at All In, not the situation from last year, as that had already been taken care of and put away. So the Elite are actually irrelevant to this conversation. On my social medias, I posted my joy of his firing by singing the goodbye song, as I had already disapproved of CM Punk being around following the altercation with the Elite and the things he said on the press conference. After several weeks, I still maintain my opinion that CM Punk absolutely deserved to get fired. The only thing I take back, which I know is going to anger and frustrate some fans, is my early belief that Jack Perry should also be fired. I no longer believe that because while Jack went off script and said cry me a river, according to the majority of witness reports and AEW's legal defense, Jack was not the one who instigated the physical confrontation. It was CM Punk himself who got up to Jack's face and threw the first punch. However, I absolutely approve of Jack Perry being indefinitely suspended while the investigation continues on his side of things, because he still disobeyed the orders of his boss by going off script and referencing something that had absolutely nothing to do with Hook, the man he was feuding with at the time. Not to mention, he did not walk away when CM Punk got up in his face. It was Jack's first offense, while CM Punk was already on his second offense from AEW. Both situations resulted in physical violence. And while fans will argue endlessly over who started it, to me, it does not matter who started it because there is no excuse for physicality and even threatening to cause harm to your boss under any circumstance. What CM Punk did was not self-defense, as he had the option to walk away and focus on more important matters like his match with Samoa Joe. If Jack Perry had been the one to physically attack first, then he absolutely should have been the one who got fired, because then CM Punk would react in self-defense to get away from him. That unfortunately was not the case. Some fans had tried to make fun of me because I was ecstatic when CM Punk first arrived in AEW back in 2021, some going as far as to call me a hypocrite. But it would only be hypocrisy if I didn't have a reason for going from rooting for his career to rooting for his termination. The press conference in 2022 was only the beginning of my mind changing about him, and a lot of that had to do with him being allowed to publicly call out the Elite while sitting beside his boss, who did nothing, thus making Tony Khan an enabler of pathetic and childish behavior. As we all know, AEW created Collision as a way of distancing CM Punk from the Elite, which was one of the dumbest decisions the company could have done. While they were in need of a brand split similar to Raw and SmackDown over in WWE due to their oversized roster, splitting rosters just to keep some wrestlers away from each other for personal reasons was absolutely stupid. In this case, Tony Khan should have told the Elite and CM Punk that a choice would have to be made. These guys can either continue working for the fans and putting on great performances, or they can be childish with this whole thing and quit. While CM Punk and the Elite worked different shows, the altercation with Jack Perry showed that Punk was nothing more than a drama magnet, and it wouldn't matter which show he's wrestling at, as there's always going to be a problem. Many would probably respond with, "What would you do in this scenario?" To which the answer is easy. I would walk away and let Jack take the downfall because he made very unnecessary comments and already got himself into trouble with AEW by getting cranky at being told no. By doing nothing and walking away, CM Punk would have actually been in complete control of the situation. Jack would have been suspended, and Punk would still be in the company today, working his way up with a real world champion gimmick that would have likely ended with him rekindling his amazing feud with MJF. And when you're in a situation where somebody has a problem with you, physical violence is never the answer unless the person with a problem strikes you first, because then you're given full permission to retaliate in self-defense. But because CM Punk chose to strike first, he is the one who suffers the bigger downfall because words that were said no longer matter. Bottom line, CM Punk brought the termination upon himself due to not walking away when he had the opportunity, which would have been the right thing to do. Do you agree with this? What is your overall thoughts on CM Punk's termination from AEW? And do you believe he deserved this fate? Don't forget to subscribe for more content, click the join button to become a channel member, and give me your input on what other types of content you'd like to see.